Good morning all. Welcome to the second week of PSIR Analytica. So this week, as I had informed before, we are going to solve questions on part B of paper 1. So there also we have given you the defined syllabus. The syllabus was the strategies of Indian national movement. Then second part will be the Indian constitution, making of the Indian constitution. So in this regard, one more thing I have to remind students is that you have to write regularly to improve your scores in that regard. So there is no alternative to being consistent. So coming to today's question, that is June 13th, the question which we had posted was Satyagraha as a strategy of the Indian national movement, comment for 10 marks, 150 words. Now first of all, how to approach part B questions in that regard. Some of the popular misconception is that people tend to write two general answers, what you write in general studies, that alone won't fetch marks in political science. You need to bring certain theoretical linkages, you need to bring certain opinions of certain scholars, and more importantly, you have to identify what is the demand of the question. Now coming to the today's question, if you look at the demand of the question, they are asking what? They are asking Satyagraha. Satyagraha is what? A strategy of the Indian national movement, and they are asking you to comment on it. They are not asking you to just explain Satyagraha as a strategy of the Indian national movement. You need to bring your opinion on that, or you need to link views of certain scholars on it. So to start with, one confusion what many will have is that because it's a 10 marker question, you have to write within 150 words, that what and all we can write. So first and foremost, try to introduce what is Satyagraha. So from a political science approach, what you can say, Professor Nirmal Kumar Bose, Professor Nirmal Kumar Bose says Satyagraha is a way of conducting war by means of non-violence. So friends, you can use this particular view of Professor Nirmal Kumar in your introduction part to just say, to have a catchy introduction that what do we mean by Satyagraha. He says that what is it? It's a way of conducting war through non-violence. Now coming to the point, next part, to set the trend that how or why Satyagraha was used as a strategy of Indian national movement, you can write Bipin Chandra says Gandhi used Satyagraha as a main strategy to counter the British colonialism. Now after writing this point, you need to write few points regarding what or why Gandhi employed Satyagraha in that regard. So Satyagraha as a strategy had its own set of advantages in that regard. One was that non-violence was an essential part of this strategy, and non-violence attracted many masses including women to take part in the Indian national movement. Second one, Satyagraha as a tool, basically it was a strategy which confused the British. Here you can give the example of civil disobedience movement. When Gandhi employed Satyagraha, the British were caught in a catch-22 situation. Means if they used force against non-violent people, the whole world would have claimed it's the grave human rights violations, and British going against the very principles they stood for, that was a liberal state. Secondly, Satyagraha was also, if they didn't react anyway, Gandhi would have claimed moral victory over the British in that regard. In this way, Satyagraha was successfully employed by Gandhi in civil disobedience movement to get concession from the British, which led to the Round Table Conference, where for the first time Indians sat on the table as equals to the British for the negotiations of future independence in that regard. And third, why Gandhi used Satyagraha also is that since India was a multi-diverse society, and we can see India was still a nation in the making. There were peasants, there were workers, there were capitalists in that regard. So Satyagraha gave a platform to form a unity among diverse sections of society. So these were the main tools of Satyagraha as a strategy in the Indian national movement. But in any question, you also have to write the counter viewpoints. There is not only one view, because there are certain views which also says that Satyagraha as a strategy was not so successful. Satyagraha as a strategy had its own set of criticism. So one will look into the criticism part. The criticism mainly comes from M.N. Roy, was Marxist, who says that Satyagraha was more of a reactionary movement. It did not involve any kind of revolutionary tactics. So M.N. Roy accuses that Gandhi's strategy of Satyagraha prevented the masses from participating in large number and took away the revolutionary character of the movement in that regard. Then the other criticism comes from, we have a scholar by the name Gene Sharp, who says Satyagraha lacked any kind of pragmatic approach. It mainly dealt with otherworldly things. And the criticism also says that through Satyagraha, Gandhi prevented the movement from taking a revolutionary trend. So mainly these are the criticism against Satyagraha strategy. But when you end your answer, try to bring or a view which will try to balances the criticism. In this regard, you can bring the view of Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky says that it is wrong to say that Satyagraha was just a moral agenda. Satyagraha was pragmatic in nature, but it was cloaked with morality. The reason was that what Saul Alinsky says that if Gandhi had guns in that regard, or if India had the military power at that point of time to counter the British colonialism, then the revolutionary movement would have been possible. But given at that point of context where British were a superior force in that regard and India was still a nation in the making, Satyagraha was more a practical strategy for Gandhi to make it as the central focal point of the Indian national movement. And then you can end your answer by saying is that Satyagraha as a strategy is not just used in Indian national movement, its relevance is found even today when you can say Anna Hazare used it in the India against corruption movement, or in South Africa Nelson Mandela used his fight against the white racist government in South Africa. So friends, this can be the components of your answer, and this should be your structure of your answer, and this is how you need to link the scholars in that regard. So you don't need to read 100 scholars, but have 3 or 4 for every part in the syllabus, and you need to revise them again and again to enable you to use it in the exam easily. So with this, we'll come to an end to today's session. We'll meet again tomorrow with a new question. Till then, stay safe and take care. Thank you.